Hello, I am Roland Peku and I'll be talking about Muslim prayer and fasting, which is we're looking at Ramadan. Now, the Muslims have certain beliefs, and prayer and fasting is one of those beliefs. And so we'll look at some of the things they believe in, and then we'll take prayer as a subject, fasting, and then we'll combine the two into the Ramadan. So let's start with their beliefs. In the Islamic religion, they have 5 basic mandatory acts that every Muslim is required to observe. Now, these pillars are Shahada, which is faith, and so they exercise faith in the things that they do. Second is Salat, which is the 5 daily prayers every Muslim is required to observe. Third is the Zakat, which is giving alms or charity. Fourth is Saum, which is fasting, and we'll be talking more about that later on, which is the Saum. And then we have Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca. Of course, I know most of us have heard about Hajj, where Muslims travel down to Mecca and they go around the Kaaba 7 times, and some other ceremonies that they observe. As you can see in the picture, the black tower you see over there is the Kaaba, which they go around 7 times as part of their ceremony when they are on this pilgrimage to Mecca. And so we will be focusing on Salat and Saum, which is the 5 daily prayers of Islam, and also the fasting that Muslims observe. Now, Salat, which is the prayer, as I said earlier on, is the 5 daily prayers that Muslims are required to observe, and these prayers are made at specific times. Now, the first one, which is the Fajr, is at dawn, usually before sunrise. The second is the Zuhr, which is at noon. We have the Isha, which is in the afternoon. Maghrib, which is in the evening, usually before sunset, and the Isha, which is at night. That is, after sunset. And in this process of Salat, there are some things that Muslims are required to do as part of the preparation or as a purification process, and that is what you call the wudu, which is the purification, and or usually referred to as partial ablution. Now, Muslims are supposed to wash some parts of their body with water, and this is as part of the purification process that they would have to go through. Now, these parts which they usually wash are the hands, the mouth, the nostrils, the arms, head, and feet, and usually this is done 3 times. So they wash the hands 3 times, the mouth 3 times, and all other parts of the body that you're supposed to wash, you do this 3 times. And this is done because it is believed that as they go about in their activities, there are certain things they come in contact with which defiles their body. And so, for instance, they use the washroom, shake hands with people, and here in Ghana, some Muslims work in the abattoir, and so coming in contact with the blood of the animal and all those things defiles their body, and so they will need to wash those things away before they can pray. And so that is why there is the need to perform this wudu or the partial ablution to purify themselves before they do any of the 5 daily prayers. Now, the prayer is accompanied by a series of set positions, including bowing with hands on knees, standing, prostrating, and sitting in a special position. And this is not on the heels nor on the buttocks. So the prayer goes with specific positions that they are supposed to make. As you can see in the picture up there, he is bowing with his forehead touching his mat, and that is one of the positions that is the positions in which they set in themselves as they pray. And in the course of the prayer, there are certain recitations they make, and the commonest of the recitations which we we are familiar with is Allahu Akbar, which is Allah is great. That's the meaning of Allahu Akbar. It means Allah is great. And so that is a common phrase we usually hear when Muslims pray. But there are a series of recitations that they make as they pray. Now, prayers can be done anywhere, but the preferable place is the mosque. And so Muslims pray anywhere, depending where they find themselves. When the time is due for the prayer, they're supposed to have their prayers. But usually, the required place or the preferred place they are supposed to go and pray is the mosque. And they are usually led by a leader who is called the Imam. So the Imam usually leads the prayers when prayers are being said, and the rest of the congregation follows with him in the recitation and the whole praying process. So now let's look at the Saum, which is the fasting. Now Muslims have three types of fast. We have the ritual fast, fast as compensation for repentance, and ascetic fast. But the common one is the ritual fasting. Now this type of fast is obligatory and observed during the month of Ramadan. So the ritual fasting is what Muslims usually observe during the month of Ramadan, and this requires them to go without food for certain period of time, usually from dawn to dusk, and so they do not eat nor drink, and some other activities that they are not supposed to engage in during this period of Ramadan. Now this type of fast is obligatory and observed during the month of Ramadan. Now Ramadan is observed in the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, and the name Ramadan has its root from the Arabic word ar-ramad, which means dryness or scorching heat. And so the Ramadan is observed usually within the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, and it usually lasts about 29 to 30 days, depending on the crescent moon. And so that is usually the range, which is between 29 and 30 days. And so as I said earlier on, that this is usually done from dawn to dusk every day during the period of Ramadan. And as part of the fast, Muslims are required to abstain from food, drinks, sexual relations, smoking, and any other unholy practices. And part of some of the things are also required to observe or to keep to is self-discipline and staying away from unholy places or things that would defy them. It is believed that this is the time that they have to draw closer to Allah, and so they are grooming themselves to become spiritually more closer to Allah, and that it is not good for them to defy themselves during this period. And this is a spiritual period, and so they have to do all things to stay spiritual and also to be in close relationship with Allah. Now Ramadan, a typical day of the Ramadan starts with a meal before the Fajr prayer, and this meal is called the suhoor. Now every day during the period of Ramadan, the Muslims usually eat before the first prayer, which is as we said, Fajr, which is one of the prayers that is said every day. And earlier on we saw that the prayer is called Salat. And so the suhoor is the meal they eat before the beginning of the fast, and usually the fast starts after the Fajr prayer. Now the fast ends with a meal called the Iftar just after the Maghrib prayer. Now this is often followed by the main meal, as Iftar was taken to break the fast. And so usually before sunset, the Iftar is taken to break the fast, after which they go for the Maghrib prayer, which is before sunset. And so usually this is something light that they take to break the fast, and then after the Maghrib prayer they come back and then enjoy their meal. And Muslims are encouraged to give zakat during the period of Ramadan. Now we saw earlier on that zakat means alms or charity. And so Muslims are also encouraged to give alms during this period of Ramadan. They are also encouraged to read the Quran, increase in prayer, practice self-discipline, and refrain from worldly affairs. And so these are some of the things that they do during the period of Ramadan. Now, Ramadan ends with a holiday called Eid al-Fitr. Now, this is held on the first day of the new month after Ramadan to mark the end of a successful fast. There are usually feasts held all around Muslim communities, and there is much to drink, eat, and a lot of merrymaking. And so, I personally love this day because here in Ghana it is a holiday and it is observed here in Ghana. I don't know if same thing happens all around the world, but this is held or this is observed as a holiday, and of course I go out there to hang out with some Muslim friends and I get to enjoy with them, even though I didn't participate in the fast, but we get to enjoy with them as they share what they have with the whole community, family and friends, and we all have fun together. Now here in Ghana, there are cows, goats, sheep, and in rare cases, some chicken was slaughtered during this feast, and the meat is shared among family and friends, as I said earlier on. So Ramadan is a very spiritual time where Muslims draw closer to Allah, and they do a lot of they are supposed to engage in some activities that would uplift their spirit, and some of those things are to do good continually, to practice self-discipline, to refrain from any worldly things, and in some places there is no employment given during this period, and that it is required to be a very holy month, and Muslims expected themselves to be holy during this period of Ramadan so that they can get closer to Allah and that things can move well for them. And thank you for listening to this presentation.